Hey, thanks for stopping by. My name is Tyler, and today I have a super fun video. I've been wanting to make this one for a long time now. It is the 2024 First Certification Bracket. And this bracket is effectively going to be my opinion on what are some of the best first certifications you can go for. And maybe why I think that, because I'm not saying any certifications are bad. But when you're first starting out, it can be super intimidating to pick one out because there's so many choices and you have 15 people telling you different things. And so it can be really tricky. So I wanted to make this video to talk through these 16 certifications you see here and talk about why maybe you might want to start with one before another. So before we jump into this, I want to wish everybody a happy new year. It is January 1st, 2024. So do me a favor and drop a New Year's resolution in the comments. If you guys are not new here, you'll know one of my favorite things to do is set goals, and I love hearing about other people's goals and what y'all have planned for 2024. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I do want to preface that this is going to be from a perspective of somebody just getting into IT. So maybe they just graduated high school or college, or maybe they're switching careers, but they're brand new to IT. I mean, they don't have really any experience. They don't know how to patch a cable, or they don't know what a switch is. Like, we're talking pretty brand new here, because that's exactly where I started about a year and a half ago. So I feel like I'm a good person to speak on it from this perspective. So let's go ahead and get into it without further ado. We're going to start over here on the right side. And up in the corner here, we have Linux Essentials going up against the MS900. So this is a pretty interesting matchup here. So the MS900 does have that brand name. I mean, when you type it into Indeed, you will get those results of people looking for it. So that's a lot of points in favor of Microsoft just off the bat, because the marketability of the certification is a little bit bigger, I would say, than the Linux Essentials course. Linux is definitely a skill that is in need and people are looking for it, but I don't think it has the same marketability as a Microsoft certification. However, I am leaning towards the Linux Essentials certification to move forward in our next round, because I think Linux would be easier to learn with a structured learning path and maybe a structured certification course and something there to guide your learning. Because I mean, Microsoft, their suite of products, you're going to use it every day. I mean, if you're in any help desk position, really any IT position at all, you're going to be dealing with SharePoint and OneDrive and all of these Microsoft products. And a lot of the stuff in the MS900, I think, can be learned kind of on the job. So for that reason, I'm actually going to go ahead and move the Linux Essentials to the next round. And once again, no hate to the MS900, but I think Linux might be a better one to be a first certification candidate, just because, once again, I think you can learn the Microsoft suite on the job or just as you go. I don't know if it would be as efficient of a use of time to dedicate a explicit certification to. I think learning it on the job and just as you go, I think would be a good way to learn some of those Microsoft services. We're going to go ahead and take a break from that side. And this is a good one to talk about. All right, so up next, we have some heavy hitters here. So we're looking at the CompTIA Network Plus going up against the CompTIA Security Plus. These are both amazing certifications. I mean, CompTIA makes some great certifications when you're first starting, because they don't go super in depth, but they just go a mile wide and an inch deep. So you kind of get to see a lot of stuff through these CompTIA certifications. But which one should you do first? Well, in my eyes, it's going to be really hard to secure a network if you don't know how the traffic is flowing through that network. So for that reason alone, I am going to go ahead and advance the Network Plus to the next rounds. Once again, the Security Plus is not a bad place to start. However, I think you'll have an easier time understanding the different kind of attacks and firewalls when you have a little bit of networking experience from that Network Plus. I feel like it's also important to mention that I might be a little bit biased just because the Network Plus was my first certification. I would show you guys the textbook, but it is missing from that back there because I actually lent it to a friend. So, all right, we have both the MS900 and the Security Plus eliminated. Please don't be mad. I know I'm sure I've already sparked some fire in the comments, but that's just how it goes. So, moving on, another set of really heavy hitters over here. We're going to talk about the CCNA versus the Certified Ethical Hacker. And once again, I'm going to have to go with the CCNA because it's going to be really hard to attack a network if you don't know how a network works. So, for that reason alone, I'm going to advance the CCNA. But I also want to mention that these two certifications are both pretty tricky. I mean, the CCNA, actually, I do have my books for that one. They are right here. Real big books. I don't know if either one of these would be good anyway because they're so big. I mean, the Security Plus, Network Plus are big certs, but I mean, the CCNA and CEH are even bigger. And I don't know if, as someone new to IT, you want to start off and be completely overwhelmed with networking or security topics. So maybe we're going to keep that in mind for later rounds in the bracket. But I also wanted to show you that this is one out of the two books for the CCNA. Both of these guys are CCNA books, so kind of intimidating. I mean, if you're brand new to IT and someone walks up to you and says, "Read these textbooks," I mean, that might be a little bit much to start off on. But regardless, I'm going to go ahead and advance our CCNA to the next round. All right, there we are. So we already have a few certifications eliminated. So who are we going to look at next? Let's go ahead and go back over here, and we're going to look at the Oracle Certified Junior Associate. That's kind of a weird name, but that is obviously you're going to be working with Oracle stuff. I'll be honest, I'm not super familiar with this certification. I don't have any Oracle certifications, but just an Oracle entry-level certification. The next one that is going to be going up against is the Google Cloud Digital Leader, and this is Google's foundational level exam for their public cloud offerings. So think Cloud Practitioner or AZ900 is kind of comparable to that certification. I actually have done some classes for the Google Cloud Digital Leader just because I wanted to learn a little bit more about Google Cloud. But let's talk about it. So these ones, I'll be honest, I don't know as much about them, but right off the bat, I am kind of leaning towards Google just because it has the Google name behind it. I mean, when I was researching certifications to drop into this bracket here, looking for information on the Oracle Certified Junior Associate, it's kind of tricky. I mean, it just does not have the reach that the Google Cloud Digital Leader does. So, I mean, if you type in Oracle Certified Junior Associate into Indeed, you don't really get any results back. But the Google Cloud Digital Leader, you do get some results back. So, if I'm someone just getting into IT, I'm probably going to want to take the certification that's going to show up on resumes more frequently. Because if you have a certification, but nobody has any idea what that certification is, you have to think, are the HR people going to bother to look up what this certification is and maybe what the exam content consists of? I don't know. So for that reason, I'm going to actually advance our Google Cloud Digital Leaders. There we go. It just dawned on me, I should probably be dragging the pictures over here. Do we want to drag pictures? I mean, it might make it a little bit messy, but yeah, let's do that. So let's actually go ahead and follow the pictures of our current leaders. So boom, those two are going to be advancing. Of course, we have our wonderful Network Plus here, and we have our CCNA also advancing. So who are we going to look at next? Man, we got some good ones over here. Whew. Let's pick off an easy one. So right here we have our CISSP, that is the Certified Information Systems Security Professional, going up against our AWS Solutions Architect Associate. I mean, wow, off the bat, I have to say, neither one of these are really going to be a great first IT certification with no background. I mean, both of these certifications are brutal. I mean, I've taken the Solutions Architect. Actually, once again, I have a textbook for it. But I haven't taken the CISSP. That actually is probably going to be my next certification here. But the Solutions Architect is a pretty in-depth exam. I mean, it really takes some knowledge of networking and databases, and it's not really like the Cloud Practitioner in that you can just learn effectively vocab terms and very, I guess, exam-specific materials and pass. You kind of have to go off on your own and learn some networking and data storage strategies and all of that stuff. So off the bat, I don't know how I'm feeling about the Solutions Architect. The CISSP is also going to be kind of similar. I mean, I've looked through some of their content. Once again, I haven't taken this one, but it's going to take a little bit of prior knowledge. It's going to be really tricky when you get a question about disaster recovery and what you do with your firewalls if you don't know what a firewall is. So both of these guys, I don't know if I'd advance either one of them if it was up to me, but oh geez. I think I'm gonna have to go ahead and advance the Solutions Architect Associate just because I'm familiar with it. And I know that you could jump straight to that one. It wouldn't be the nicest learning curve, but yes, you technically could do it. So I'm going to go ahead and advance our AWS Solutions Architect Associate. All right, there we are. So Solutions Architect Associate is going to go ahead and move forward here. Let me go ahead and change colors so we stay organized here. Man, up next, what are we looking at? Let's go. Ooh, this is a good one. So both of these are actually pretty common as first certifications, and those are going to be the AZ900 and the AWS Cloud Practitioner. So these are both foundational level certifications, kind of like the Google Cloud Digital Leader certification, very similar to that in that it is the foundational exam. It's not going to be asking you questions that are too in depth. But man, which one do we want to learn? So once again, I'm going to think back to I am brand new to IT. I don't even know the Microsoft suite yet. I don't know anything about cloud or anything. Which one are we going to go for? So this might just be me being partial to AWS again, but I might have to give it to Amazon because just like the Cloud Practitioner, I've taken just like the Digital Leader, I've taken some AZ900 courses before, and slightly more than the Cloud Practitioner, I would say Microsoft expects you to know just the smallest amount more than the Cloud Practitioner. And for someone brand new to tech and brand new to maybe cloud they're doing, I'm going to want to start off with something kind of friendly that can really, I guess, gently bring me into cloud and not make me learn more about the Microsoft suite in tandem, because I mean, that first certification, it's not easy. Like I said, my first one was a Network Plus. I mean, man, it's hard. It's starting that first certification is not easy, and I want it to be, I guess, as enjoyable as possible. I don't want to be frustrated on my first certification. I don't want it to be super easy, but I don't want to be sitting there pulling my hair out because I'm trying to understand a topic just like 2 months into my tech career. So we're going to go ahead and actually advance our AWS Cloud Practitioner. Sorry, AZ900, you didn't make the cut. But yeah, I mean, woo, I hope you guys aren't too upset with me with my choices so far. We still have a long way to go, but I know I've probably cut out some people's favorite certifications already, so I apologize. All right, just like that, we have our cloud practitioner into the, is that semifinals? Yeah, those are, oh no, quarterfinals, yeah, because these will be semis and those will be the final match to determine our reigning champion. So who do we got left here? I mean, we got 4. We have the CCT, we have the A+, the Docker Associate, and the Kubernetes Administrator, which is actually my current certification I'm studying for. So let's talk about it. I mean, this one is gonna be tricky because the CCT is almost like a foundational level certification from Cisco. I want to compare it to the Network Plus, but I don't think it's quite as broad. This is another one that I don't have, but I know it's just below the CCNA in terms of difficulty. So, and that's going to be going up against a lot of people's favorite, the A plus. So, man, which one are we thinking here? So, a couple things that are, I guess, important to keep in mind. So, when you're starting out, do you want to immediately lock yourself into a vendor? We love Cisco. I love Cisco. You love Cisco. However, I want to make the argument that when you're starting off, you might not want to learn something vendor specific because Cisco might have weird names for things and specific things just to Cisco that might not be true against other systems. Another thing to bring up is the A plus's marketability. So the A plus is arguably the best known IT certification. I mean, it is just giant. It's a monster. So for marketability and being vendor neutral, I'm gonna have to go ahead and give this one to the A plus. Once again, I don't think the CCT is a bad certification to get. I just think as a first certification to get, the A plus is going to be a better bet because those help desk jobs are going to be looking for the A plus. They're going to be looking for the Network Plus. They're going to be looking for those big certifications, and the CCT it's just not there. I mean, well, the certification is there, but there aren't as many companies looking for that certification. If they're looking for a Cisco certification, they're going to be looking for our CCNA right here. So we're going to go ahead and give it to the A plus. All right, boom, just like that. All right, so the left side of our bracket is up to quarterfinals. We have our Network Plus by CompTIA. We have our CCNA by Cisco. We have our Cloud Practitioner by AWS. We have our A Plus by CompTIA. Over here, we're almost at quarterfinals, but we do have one more bracket to talk about. But before that, I do want to ask you guys how this video looks. If you're new here, this is actually my first video in this style where I have a picture-in-picture. I'll probably be like down in the corner somewhere, but this is kind of my first video in that style. So if you guys have feedback for me, please let me know. But back to our bracket here. Oh man, this is an interesting one. So we have our Docker associate and our Kubernetes administrator. Man, this is this is kind of another tough one because I think both are going to be very important to learn in the future. I don't think it would be good to start with either one of these though, because at least for me in my journey so far, containers and container orchestration have been kind of tricky. I mean, everything is very abstracted and it's just not going to be a super easy thing to learn straight off the bat, I don't think. I think you're going to want something like the Network Plus or the A Plus to get your feet wet in technology before you start jumping into like container specific certifications. Because neither one of these are, I would say, entry level. I'm sure there are people smarter than me that think these are the easiest things in the world, but this isn't their what is this thing called? Jeez, bracket. It's not their bracket. So we are going to go ahead and pick between both of these very hard certifications. I did mention I'm actually studying for my CKA right now, and it is one of the sharpest learning curves I've hit. So partially for that reason, and partially because for the certified Kubernetes administrator, it is actually good to have a little bit of knowledge of Docker. We're going to go ahead and advance the Docker associate. Once again, I don't know if either one of these would be great candidates for our first certification, but we'll kind of have to see how it turns out. And with that, we have our first full round of eliminations. So we are down to the quarterfinals, and let's look at our contenders here. We have our Network Plus going up against our CCNA. We have our A Plus, which is going up against the Cloud Practitioner. We have Linux Essentials going up against Google Cloud Digital Leader. Then down here in kind of like the tough corner, we have the AWS Solutions Architect Associate going up against our Docker Associate. Let me change these colors before I forget. So yeah, well, man, shoot, let's get fiery in here. This right here, this is a hot topic. We're looking at the Network Plus going up against the CCNA. Both of these are networking certifications, and both of them are regarded to be amazing first certifications. Now, depending on who you ask, you might get different answers on this. But in my experience, I was brand new to tech. I could barely navigate a file system when I graduated high school like a year and a half ago. Let alone, I didn't know what a switch was. I didn't know any command line commands. All of that was completely foreign. Like when I say I was new, I was new. So it might be personal preference, but I might want to start with the Network Plus on this one because the CCNA, like I covered before, I mean, it is a big exam. I mean, look at these guys. And the Network Plus, while yes, it's also a big exam, it's not as in depth and it's not as big. So I think we're going to advance the Network Plus here. Another thing to mention is that I think the Network Plus is a great precursor to the CCNA. That's actually the certification path I chose. So my first certification was a Network Plus, and my second was a CCNA. And in my experience, I was super glad I did the Network Plus first because I learned things like what is an access point? What is a switch? What are all of these new terms? I mean, before we even go in depth with what all of those are, I would like to at least learn from a eagle's eye view all of these terms. And that's exactly what the Network Plus does. And I think it's just a killer precursor to the CCNA. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and advance the Network Plus. Once again, it's not because I hate the CCNA. I love the CCNA. It is a killer certification. Personally, I think everybody should get a CCNA just because networking is important. For all of those reasons, my boy, the Network Plus is going to go ahead and advance to the next round. All right, moving on after I just made a whole army of people angry. I am so sorry. Let's go back over to the right side here and talk about the Linux Essentials versus the Google Cloud Digital Leader. So this one is kind of interesting because both of these are important, but I am definitely leaning to the Linux Essentials as a more important skill to learn early on because it doesn't matter if you are in Google Cloud, Azure, AWS, on-prem, you're going to have Linux with all of those. So I'm going to go ahead and move the Linux Essentials into the semifinals just because I think it's more versatile than the Google Cloud Digital Leader. Once again, that's Google's foundational level exam. So effectively, you're just going to kind of know what their services are. You might not even have hands on with them yet. And I don't know if it would just be as useful as something like the Linux Essentials. So for that reason, Linux Essentials is going to go to our semifinals. All right, and just like that, we are down to just one, two, three matchups left. So we're gonna go back over here, and we have another kind of hot one. I mean, these are both very heavy contenders for a first certification. I don't think either one is going to be a bad choice. So, let's talk about it. In my mind, I this one's tricky. I'm leaning towards the cloud practitioner only because it very quickly bleeds into other certifications. A plus, yes, it can bleed into other certifications, but the cloud practitioner can uh, get you ready for something like the solutions architect very, very well. It's a great precursor, but the A plus, from what I understand, is a little bit more hardware based and very like help desk centric. And while it will be good for getting a help desk job, I don't know if it's going to help you really advance your career past that. So I think for that reason, I'm leaning towards the cloud practitioner. But on the other hand, the A plus is also, I think, arguably more marketable than the cloud practitioner because everybody knows about it. And when you're trying to get that first IT job, I think the A plus would do more for you than the cloud practitioner. So, sorry, this is a tough one, man. Uh, I'm going to give it to the cloud practitioner. We're going to make an assumption and say that you want to go past the help desk and you want to be in security or cloud or one of those sectors that will force you to learn cloud. You're not going to stay on the help desk doing physical hardware repairs. If you really love the hardware side, then I would stop it right there and say take the A plus. But if you're looking to get into security or cloud, I'm thinking the cloud practitioner might be the way to go just because it kind of prepares you for a longer trajectory in terms of certifications than the A plus would. I'm sorry, A plus. I know that's everybody's like favorite certification. Not everybody's, but that one is definitely gonna get some heat in the comments. So yeah, but I'm sticking with it, and I am moving our cloud practitioner to the semifinals. All right, and just like that, we are down to just a couple more rounds. Once again, I apologize for removing the A plus. I don't know if I made the right choice there. I'll be honest. That is a really tough matchup right there. But we're gonna stick with the cloud practitioner. Maybe I'm biased because I'm a cloud engineer. I don't know. All right, this one over here. This is an interesting one. So we have our Docker associate going against our AWS Solutions Architect Associate. Like I said before, I don't know if either one of these is a great candidate for a first certification. If I'm honest, I don't see either one of these making it past finals, but out of these two, which ones should we do first? I mean, they're a little bit unrelated. They're both pretty related to cloud. Obviously, the solutions architect is very related to cloud, and I guess Docker is too. They're both effectively cloud certs. Man, oh, I I think I'm gonna have to give this one to Docker. I don't know a ton about the Docker Associate, but I've looked through the exam objectives and done a little bit of reading on it, and it seems like it would be an easier thing to learn straight out the gate than the solutions architect because like I said before, the solutions architect, it builds on a lot of stuff. You kind of have to know a bit of networking and security and all this stuff before any of it really makes sense. So for that reason, I think I'm going to have to go ahead and send the Docker Associate, Docker Certified Associate to the semifinals here. I feel bad. I love the solutions architect, but I don't know if it's the right choice for our first certification. All right, and just like that, we are down to our semifinalists. We have the Network Plus, the Linux Essentials, the AWS Cloud Practitioner, and the Docker Associate. Wow, all right, we've eliminated a lot of certifications. Jeez, all right. Which one will come out on top? Y'all take your predictions. I'm kind of curious to hear what you guys are thinking. So let's get into it. Let's go ahead and talk about the Network Plus versus the Cloud Practitioner. I don't know if this one is really much of a contest. Hot take. I know. I'm going with the Network Plus all day, every day. It is super wide. I mean, like I said, a mile wide and an inch deep. It covers a ton. It has that CompTIA name, so it's heavily marketable. I mean, tons of jobs have this in their posting descriptions. I mean, it's just a great certification all around. I started with the Network Plus, and I have absolutely no regrets. I am more than happy to move the Network Plus to the finals. But let's talk about kind of why I didn't why I'm not advancing this guy, because this is also a super common first certification. I mean, maybe if you're a developer, it would make more sense to go for this one so you understand the infrastructure a bit more. But in general, for someone brand new, they don't know anything about tech yet. Don't worry, you will. I don't know if it's a great place to start because I mean it's all just cloud stuff, and I think learning the on-prem infrastructure and all of, I guess, like I said, the on-prem side before you learn the cloud side might be a good idea. For me, it helped me get a better grasp of just kind of what the infrastructure is doing, and yeah, I don't know what else to say. I don't think it's as good of a first certification choice as the Network Plus here. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and move our Network Plus to the finals for the championship round. All right. Got our Network Plus in our championship round here. Let's move over to the other side. We got the Linux Essentials going up against the Docker Associate. So I think I have a very clear winner on this one. I am absolutely going with the Linux Essentials. I mean, it is going to be an easier place to start than the Docker Associate. I mean, even just studying for the Docker Associate requires some Linux. So I think the the Linux Essentials is a clear winner here. Linux you'll use all over the place. It's super common, and I don't think Docker is a great place to start learning tech. I mean, it's like going to the pool for the first time and jumping off the 30-foot diving tower into the 20-foot deep section of pool rather than, starting off waiting and getting a feel first. So for that reason, the Linux Essentials is going to go ahead and go to our finalist round. All right, and just like that, we are down to our last match off of the video. We're looking at the Network Plus going against the Linux Essentials. Man, this one isn't easy. I don't know how I feel about this one. On one hand, you have Linux, which is super important to learn and super useful just about everywhere you go. But on the other hand, you have the Network Plus by CompTIA, which is super well known. It can teach you a little about a lot of things. Oh man. I think this one might come down to marketability. I think the Network Plus is more well known than the Linux Essentials certification. And for that reason, I think I'm going to have to give it to our Network Plus. So, boom, just like that, we're done. I mean, yeah. We picked 16 certifications and we slowly narrowed them down one by one until we got our winner here. So, yeah, I mean, that about wraps it up. Let me know if you agree. I'm sure there's a lot of people that do not at all agree with my listing here. I mean, I left the CCNA, A plus, and Cloud Practitioner behind. So let me know what you would change in the comments. Real quick, guys. So after editing this, I want to make it clear again that I'm not like trying to bash any certifications. I'm not saying any are bad to get or one is like significantly better than the other. It's mostly just my personal preference on which one do I recommend people to start with. And again, it's the Network Plus because it gives a great overview of all sorts of topics and it's really just a great starting point. It doesn't mean you can't start with the Cloud Practitioner or you can't start with the CCNA or the Docker Associate or any of the ones on that list. But I wanted to make a video kind of sharing my thoughts. So thank you guys for watching. I'll roll the rest of the video now. Other than that, let me know how you guys like the video. Like I said, this is the first video I've had with picture-in-picture, and I'm pretty new to it. So let me know how that looks, and I appreciate you guys watching. Have a great rest of your long weekend.